So now we move into our third and final theory to discuss today, and that's social reaction theory or labeling theory. So if you've had the intro class in sociology, or if you had it with me in particular, when we talked about deviance, we talked about labeling theory. And under labeling theory, we talked about primary and secondary deviance. And that really is at the core of this next theory that we're going to talk about, social reaction theory. So, primary deviance is when a person engages in deviant behavior, again, behavior that violates the norms of our society. The person engages in that behavior, but they don't they don't see themselves as being a deviant as a result of that. So it doesn't affect their self-concept. And it doesn't affect how other people see them either. So if I go to the store and I taste a few grapes, technically I'm stealing, right? But the produce manager might be right there putting fruit on the shelf and see me do that and say, that's no big deal. Or I tell a lie every now and again. Not all the time, but sometimes I tell what's called a little white lie. That's saying it's primary deviance because people don't see me as a liar because I told a lie every now and again. Because we've all lied at some point or another. And if you tell me you've never lied, that's your first lie. So we've all lied, but we don't necessarily see ourselves as a liar. But when you move into the territory of secondary deviance, that refers to a repeated violation of a norm until you now have a deviant identity. So when we talk about social reaction theory, we're talking about the view that people become criminal because they're labeled as such and they accept that label as part of their personal identity. So if you're someone that breaks the law and you've done it repeatedly, now people see you as a criminal and you've accepted, yeah, I am a criminal. Yes, I am a drug dealer. Yes, I am a thief. Yes, I am this or whatever. You've been labeled that by society, and now you also accept that as part of your personal identity. So this particular theory sees society's role in creating deviance through the social construction of deviance. Because let's face it, what might be criminal in one society may not be criminal in another. It depends on who's labeling the deviant act. So society can label someone a deviant, can label someone a criminal. That person might, at some point, want to change their lives. But if society keeps putting that label on them, it's very difficult to do. Let's think about the stigma of being an ex-felon or an ex-con, as they call that person. When you're an ex-felon, ex might not mean anything at all because society might still hold your criminal past against you. So it's hard for you to get a job if you're a convicted felon. It's hard for you to rent an apartment. Some dating websites, believe it or not, won't even allow you to put your profile there if you have a criminal background. And especially depending on what the crime is, if you're a sex offender, that really works against you. So if you've broken the law and society won't give you an opportunity to remake your life, to turn your life around by getting a job or going to school and things of that nature, then what happens? The person goes back to crime. So society plays a role in shaping criminal behavior when they won't give that person an opportunity to turn their lives around. So let's look at some of the key elements of social reaction or labeling theory. Behaviors that are considered criminal are highly subjective. It depends. Absolutely. If you look at the behavior of the rich and powerful, even some of our lawmakers, that is absolutely criminal behavior. If anybody else did that, that would be a crime. But because that particular person did it, it's not considered a crime. If you look at the impeachment, and I'm not trying to get political, but if you look at the, because I want to use this as an example. If you look at the impeachment trial of Donald Trump as president, okay, the Republicans, the GOP, were saying, well, he attempted to extort the leader of Ukraine. He attempted to withhold finance or money from them for war equipment if they didn't help him get dirt on a political opponent. Attempting isn't breaking the law. Now try explaining that to someone who's in jail for attempted robbery or attempted rape or attempted whatever else, attempted murder. They didn't kill the person, right? They tried to break into the store. They got caught. but they weren't successful. Does that excuse work for anybody else? Probably not. So, who we label a criminal is highly subjective. Now, crime is defined by those in power. So, those in power are the ones that define crime for the rest of us. We call those people moral entrepreneurs. But what's interesting is those very same people that will identify you as a criminal might engage in the same behavior, and that label doesn't stick to them. Not only are the acts labeled, but the person engaged in the behavior is labeled as well. So sometimes this starts when a person is very young. When you keep saying to a kid, you're a bad kid, you're a bad kid, as opposed to you're a good kid that did a bad thing, people call you a bad person. So it's not just your behavior that gets labeled, it's you that gets labeled also. So both positive and negative labels involve subjective interpretation of behavior. In other words, from individual perspectives. Depending on who the person is, they interpret that behavior a certain way. And again, the background, the power, the wealth, or the influence of the individual often shapes how they're identified. Now, the last part of our discussion, and we're still talking about social reaction theory, that is part of labeling theory when it comes to crime, is the criminal prosecution as a successful degradation ceremony. So to degrade someone is to destroy their reputation, is to stigmatize a person. When a person goes through a criminal prosecution, that is exactly what happens. So on the slide, the first point says, a course of action or ritual in which someone's identity is publicly redefined and destroyed, and they are thereafter viewed as socially unacceptable. So if a person is prosecuted for a crime and they're convicted for that crime, their behavior is forever redefined and their reputation is destroyed. So once you're prosecuted for a crime, people redefine who you are. You are publicly redefined. Your reputation is undergoing a transformation that will have stigmatizing consequences for you, as from that moment on into your future. So it occurs after a person has been put on trial for a crime and found guilty. So if a person is in fact innocent of a crime and they are, let's say there's some DNA test that exonerates them, it's important that they go through an exoneration trial, which means that the record is scrubbed clean completely so that that person's reputation can be restored. So that's it for the lecture today. So what follows the lecture is the quiz. So again, you're going to have a quiz on this. It's a 5-point quiz. There's a point for each question. There are 5 questions. And you are expected to do the quiz by the deadline. So the deadline for the quiz, I believe, will be the day I post this information. And so it'll be posted, in advance of Tuesday. And you'll have to complete your quiz by 11 p.m. on Tuesday. You can look at the notes anytime you want, but the quiz has a deadline. And I hope that, again, everybody is staying safe. Everybody is practicing social distancing and washing your hands frequently. And I'll see you in the next video when I lecture on violent crime. So after this week, you're going to have another film assignment, another short paper assignment. But again, I'm going to post a video about that. So take care, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.